Well, thank you, Erin, and thank you all for having me. And I'm delighted to be here on a day when Leonard Burke, who volunteers to do pro bono work with our office, is here. So it's great. It's great to be here. And also, it's the one Thursday I didn't have a docket either, so I'm thrilled. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. How many of you in the room, if I could get a show of hands, are familiar with Land of Lincoln? So the vast majority of you are. Well, I think, to be honest, we've expanded our work a lot over the years, and so I'm grateful that we can let you know how many more people in our community we can help in the types of cases we're handling. I also was going to ask you, and maybe you don't want to raise your hand for this, but beyond Leonard and Erin, how many of you have ever been to court? All right. Did anybody enjoy that? And did anyone find it frightening?
Yes.
Okay. And to be honest, the one time I've appeared in court on my own, I was an attorney, but it was in the city of St. Louis. I had gotten a ticket for carelessly alighting from a parked car. And I was utterly terrified to go to court despite being an attorney. So, as you can imagine, we help low-income people. We help low-income people with civil legal cases. And you can't imagine how terrifying it is to go to court if you really don't have enough money for an attorney. So we're there to provide them with an attorney in cases that really matter. They may be losing their children, they may be losing their home, they may be really needing a public benefit, and we're there for them. So Land of Lincoln was established in 1972 with an act signed and enacted into law by Richard Nixon to fund civil legal aid here in the United States. We are the largest provider of free civil legal assistance to low-income individuals and senior citizens, regardless of income, here in a 65-county area in Illinois. Our service territory is roughly 33,000 square miles, or the size of Indiana. And I'm from Indiana, so that's important. We also, in terms of our eligible population, there are more than 376,000 Illinoisans who qualify for our services. And studies really show that if a low-income person has one civil legal problem, they probably have closer to 5 that are not being addressed. So you can imagine the need is great. Last year, Land of Lincoln handled roughly 12,000 cases. So we were able to help 12,000 individuals. That's a drop in the bucket when you see the need. Our mission was sort of developed and articulated by our board in that we believe all people of central and southern Illinois should have access to justice, income security, adequate housing, quality education and health care, safety from violence and exploitation, and the opportunity to improve their own lives. Our office is dedicated to that mission. Our office is in Alton, Illinois, but Land of Lincoln actually has 4 other service offices in East St. Louis, Carbondale, Springfield, and Champaign. We also have 3 other small satellite offices that we operate to cover those 65 counties. We provide direct legal assistance out of the Alton office to 7 counties: Bond, Calhoun, Greene, Macoupin, Madison, Montgomery, and I'm missing one, Jersey. And then we also provide assistance to 5 other counties here in Illinois out of our office, like Adams, Pike, Brown, by paying private attorneys up there at a reduced fee to represent our clients. Because to be frank, going to Quincy is a long drive to head to court for people in our office. Our office has roughly 8 attorneys and about 4 support staff. And we also share 2 attorneys with our East St. Louis office who handle, one is dedicated to helping senior citizens, and the other is dedicated to handling consumer cases like bankruptcies or maybe some debt collection defense work. In terms of who can get our help, typically a person has to be at 200% of poverty level or below. That's not a lot. For one individual, that's roughly $24,000 annually. And you can imagine if you're living on $24,000 annually, it's a little hard to afford an attorney. They're also entitled to have very limited assets. We can help senior citizens regardless of income and assets. However, as I just mentioned, we have 8 attorneys, so we have limited resources. And under the, Leonard can correct me, the Older Americans Act, is that right? we have to dedicate our resources to helping those older Americans who have the greatest economic and social needs. So we can't help everybody, but we really strive to. Also, now we no longer have limits for victims of domestic violence. We have a grant through the state of Illinois that mandates us to help any victim of domestic violence regardless of income. And finally, we have higher income thresholds for homeowners who are facing foreclosure or veterans. We have a new grant also from Illinois to assist veterans with civil legal problems, and they can have much higher income thresholds. We're talking about $60,000 for a family of 4. You're probably wondering, how do people get to us?
How do people get to you?
Let me let you know. We have a dedicated hotline staffed by attorneys that anyone can call from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. And they do intake. They may provide limited advice if it's a case we don't handle or our office is not open to handle. We also, in our office in Alton, we do intakes for victims of domestic violence. People who are facing lockouts by their unscrupulous landlords or utility shutoffs. If they have a disability that makes it difficult for them to call, or they lack minutes on their phone or any sort of thing like that, we'll handle you on a walk-in basis or a call basis or whatever in our office, and we perform intakes. We get referrals from all our domestic violence providers. We get referrals from Riverbend Head Start. We also have what's called a medical legal partnership. So we have an intake specialist embedded at Centerstone. Are all of you familiar with Centerstone? They provide behavioral health and substance abuse treatment here, well, not here, in Alton, and they serve Madison, Jersey, Greene County. So we have an intake specialist on site 4 days a week to meet with their clients to see if they have any sort of civil legal problem that we can help with, because a lot of folks who are not going to get better if they have legal problems like housing that are not getting addressed. So we're there to address that piece of their treatment. And we also have dedicated hotlines for veterans, for consumers facing foreclosure, bankruptcy, and we also do we allow a little limited online intake. So certain people with certain problems, if they go to our website, liloff.org, they can fill in an online intake form, and then we call them back. Finally, I'm going to get and tell you about the meat of what we do, the work that we handle. Our area of greatest need is family law, and we can't begin to meet it. So our board has prioritized helping victims of domestic violence sever their abusive relationship, preserve their family, keep their family safe, and start a new life. We do that through orders of protection. We help senior citizens with orders of protection to escape abuse and exploitation. We'll help them with a divorce or a custody battle for a victim of domestic violence. We represent folks in adoption, guardianship, and other actions that promote the safety and stability of children. I want to tell you about one of our clients that we helped. Her name, I'm going to call her Natalie. She was actually a mail order bride from Russia. And she came on over, met this guy, they were in love, but roughly a couple months into her marriage, whenever her husband would leave the house, he would lock up the food, shut off the utilities, and threaten to beat her if she left. And she had 2 small children that she had brought with her. She endured this for 10 years, believe it or not. She was afraid. And being from Russia, she didn't know her culture, she didn't know people, and she was afraid to leave. When she finally found the courage to leave, we helped her get an order of protection that allowed her to have temporary residence in her house, and eventually we helped her with a divorce that awarded her maintenance, so she had some economic wherewithal to get out of that relationship and establish a new life. In providing services to victims of domestic violence, we poll them, we anonymously survey them after they've had our services and we're closing their case file. And we want to know if we're providing effective service, if they need some sort of follow-up. And I have the good fortune to read every survey that comes into our office from these victims of domestic violence. And one of our questions is your life or your children's lives any better because of our help? And in the past quarter, one person has said, yes, having an order of protection against my soon-to-be ex has given my son and I relief to know that he can't hurt us in any way anymore. Another person said, I haven't slept in months, but I can sleep at night now. So our service is effective in providing relief both economically, but obviously people's health improves when they receive our service. Another high area of demand is housing law or evictions. Have any of you guys heard about the Pulitzer Prize-winning book that came out this year called Eviction, Poverty, and Profit in the American City by Matt Desmond?
Nope.
All right, I'm a legal aid nerd, but it did win the Pulitzer, okay? It won the Pulitzer. And I think, people don't fully understand eviction. Most of us don't know people who have been evicted or at threat of eviction. And so he characterizes that as eviction's fallout is severe. Losing a home sends families to shelters, abandoned houses, and the street. It invites depression and illness, compels families to move into degrading houses in dangerous neighborhoods, uproots communities, and harms children. And I think that is all true. The more a family is forced to move, the worse and worse housing they end up in. And it really hurts children who need stability to thrive. So we help people get and maintain safe and affordable housing. And what this means is we may represent tenants against private landlords or public housing authorities and agencies that maintain Section 8 projects. Typical cases for us are unlawful evictions, lockouts, utility shutoffs, getting a landlord to make much needed repairs. We assist people with disabilities who may need help requesting a reasonable accommodation to maintain their housing pursuant to the Fair Housing Act. That can be modifications, like maybe they have a wheelchair and they need to have the parking spot closest to their apartment, or it can be just allowing a person to get treatment so they're not evicted for some of their behaviors. I want to tell you a little bit about another housing client that we helped. I'm going to call her Sierra. Sierra was a young woman who was working and living in low-income subsidized housing, and when her sister abandoned her 3-year-old nephew, Sierra took him in. When the housing authority found out that Sierra's nephew was living with her in the subsidized housing, they moved to evict her because she had not added him to her lease, which is one of the many HUD rules that housing authorities have to follow, and residents of housing, public housing have to follow as well. So we quickly got involved, got the eviction dismissed, helped her get guardianship of her nephew, added him to the lease, and she and the nephew continue to maintain safe and affordable housing today. That's some of the work we do in the housing arena. We also help homeowners who are facing foreclosure. We may help them get loan modifications or provide them advice and counseling. We may help them execute something like a deed in lieu of foreclosure where they turn over the house and they get some money to move out, anything to make a more graceful exit. In the past 4 years, we've been able to help 371 homeowners maintain their houses. They were in foreclosure, and we helped save their homes and get them out of foreclosure. We also work in the area of consumer law, trying to protect people of limited income and assets from unscrupulous debt collection, from judgments that may hurt their ability to move forward. We also deal with things like predatory lending, consumer fraud, and we help with bankruptcies. We also, as I mentioned, we can help senior citizens regardless of income, and we enforce the rights of people with disabilities or get people who need guardianship of an adult disabled child. We may help them with that, or we help senior citizens with advanced directives, and we always regularly consult with Leonard because we always have questions. I'm going to tell you a little bit about a senior citizen we helped last year. I'm going to call her Lydia. I want you to picture your grandma. So this was not our typical order of protection case. Lydia was someone who let her son and her godson move in with her because they were facing homelessness, and this frequently happens. And she was a senior citizen living on a fixed income, pension and retirement, and they immediately they took over her home. They started screaming at her, they started keeping food away from her. At one point they had partitioned half the house and she wasn't allowed to go into that. She believed they were abusing drugs, they were physically intimidating her, destroying her property. It was awful. And she went to the doctor, and her doctor said, "You're losing weight, you look terrible, what's going on?" And she kind of broke down and revealed what was happening at home. And he brought in a social worker, and the social worker brought her to us, and we were able to get an order of protection immediately, as well as police to her house to force those relatives out of her house and from continuing to abuse her. And they have stayed away. The police have had to be called to enforce that order of protection, but she feels much safer. I promise I'm wrapping up. In 2011, Land and Lincoln recognized an area and a population that we were not serving, and that was children in the educational system. So our board decided it was a significant priority that we make sure kids have meaningful access to schools and education, especially for children who are from low-income families and may have disabilities. So we provide representation both at school board hearings, we may file a case, depending on what's going on, and we represent children in matters related to educational programs, disability accommodations, truancy, bullying, student harassment, and discipline. To be honest, there was one year we represented at least 5 kindergartners who had been expelled from school. I don't know about you, maybe you think kindergartners should be expelled from school, but that's the road to ruin when you're expelling a kindergartner and giving up on them. A number of those children had undiagnosed disabilities that could then be addressed through the school system. So we help get them back into school and make sure that they continued on their educational journey. We also help folks access and maintain many public benefits like TANF, food stamps, which is now known as SNAP, Medicaid, Medicare, and so on. And we also help people remove barriers to employment. A lot of that involves expunging and sealing criminal records. So in closing, I kind of want to tell you that the investment our state makes and the federal government and many folks make in civil legal aid is really important. For every dollar invested in Land of Lincoln and other agencies like us, you get a $1.80 return on investment. Last year, Land of Lincoln obtained 162 child support orders for our clients for a total annual amount of $715,000. And I think more importantly, and I noticed that fairness is mentioned here, Land of Lincoln really strives to achieve fairness and justice and safety and security for all members of our community. Our work, I think, is important to a robust democracy. It gives everyone an appreciation for the rule of law, because having an attorney represent you during things that are very scary in the court system, you suddenly believe that there is fairness in the law, and that the administration of justice is fair, and the judge is going to listen to you and be fair and apply the law fairly. And that's something that can be really difficult to have happen when you don't have an attorney. Access to justice is really a founding principle of our country, and Land of Lincoln, and I know many other attorneys, strive to provide this every day for every member of our community. I really appreciate any support you've given in the past or in the future to Land of Lincoln, and really what I would like is that you've invited me here to speak to you. If you see people who need our help, please, please, please get them to me. Or in any way, I'll give you my card, I have brochures, I can give you our hotline number, but thank you so much for this opportunity.